for a revitalization of extraordinary energy. Well, today I would like to share with you what I believe to be some very powerful elements that will create a second wind for whatever it is that you are pursuing, for the leadership of your ministry. Breakthrough energy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Well, good morning. My name is Pete Folch, and I am very grateful, very honored, and excited to be invited to be a keynote speaker at the GACHP conference for now a third time. So some of you I have met before at previous conferences, and it was fun this morning to connect and reconnect and talk with you. And some of you I'm meeting for the very first time. As far as my background in food service and hospitality, I've been in the business over 34 years. I had my start when I was 16 years old as a dishwasher in a 24-hour restaurant. And so I've worked all positions in the kitchen as well as out front. My very first experience as a manager was back in that 24-hour restaurant. They had me for a time working third shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. while I was in high school on Fridays and Saturday nights. So that was quite an experience. But I've been a manager and a general manager at many other places. I've also been a multi-unit director. I've worked in fast food, cafeteria settings, as well as casual dining settings. I've had a chance to open up a number of brand new restaurants. For the last 20 years of my career, 20 plus years now, I've worked for Darden Restaurants, where I've worked in training and human resource roles, as well as operations development roles. Now, at Darden Restaurants, we have 8 restaurant brands. Many of you are familiar with the brands. We have Red Lobster. We have the Olive Garden. We have Longhorn Steakhouse. We have Bahama Breeze, Seasons 52. We have the Capitol Grill, Eddie B's Prime Seafood, and now Yard House. And so with over 2,000 restaurants throughout North America and now expanding to other parts of the world, and 207,000 employees, we are the world's largest casual dining restaurant company. And I currently work with the Longhorn brand in their training and development area. My message this morning is called Second Wind. And I've been inspired to present this message because we all get tired. We all experience setbacks. We all experience discouragement. We all experience things that take the wind out of our sails. For some of you in this room, maybe you're facing, with the economic times that we're in, you've been asked to function on less. You've been asked to cut back. For some of you, maybe you're feeling maybe overworked and underpaid. For some of you in this room, maybe you're dealing with a kitchen that's too small and you need to expand, and you're dealing with broken down equipment that needs to be replaced. Some of you in this room, maybe you don't have enough volunteers to meet the needs of your ministry. Some of you in this room, maybe it's possible that you report to somebody that doesn't understand you or doesn't understand your needs or what it's like to run a food service operation. Some of you in this room, maybe you have way too many events on your schedule. And that's causing you to be a little out of balance, and you're not spending enough time with your family or spending enough time in Sunday worship. So all of these things can cause us to get tired, can cause discouragement, cause us to wonder, is what I'm doing, what I'm leading here really going to make a difference? Really going to make a difference for Christ? Well, I want to keep this very real and authentic, practical and spiritual. I'm going to be sharing from my life. The stories I'm going to share with you are all very recent. As you're going to hear, a lot has happened in my life since I spoke at the Houston conference a few years ago. But I believe that these elements will make a difference in creating new spirit, new life, new energy for you, whether it's for your career, for your ministry, whether you're a distance runner, for your life. So, without further ado, let's talk about the 8 here. The first element that I believe will create a second wind, or create what I call multiple second winds. I call this feed your mind with stories of the extraordinary. Feed your mind with stories of the extraordinary. What do these movies or these stories have in common? Remember the titles: Glory Road, Miracle, Apollo 13, Cinderella Man, Invictus, Rudy, Coach Carter, The Great Debaters, Facing the Giants, August Rush, Chariots of Fire. All of these stories are stories of the extraordinary, where the extraordinary happened. The team that came together and accomplished amazing things. The group of individuals that had to overcome enormous racial prejudice to accomplish what they needed to accomplish there. The individual that was thought to be too old that comes back and wins the title. The rescue that was thought to be impossible that happens. The record that was thought to be never to be broken gets broken. The group of students, very hardcore students, that make a turn and take a different direction in their lives. Stories that change a country. Stories that change the world. Stories that change the world for Christ. The clip I showed you, Billy Mills, that's from another DVD series called the Olympics series. And that was Billy Mills back in the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo. He is the first and actually the only U.S. runner to ever have won the gold medal in the 10,000 meter event. And he was never factored even to make it to the finals, much less be in contention for a medal. And he runs and he wins the gold medal. Dramatic illustration of the second win there. And the second win in his life in that race as he runs 46 seconds faster than he ever had run previously. Those are tremendous stories. And so I'm going to encourage you whether to be intentional about it, whether it's reading about it, whether it's listening about it, or actually viewing it, to make it a steady diet and feeding your mind with stories like that. Because what it does is it changes your approach as a leader to things. It gets in your mind and your heart and your spirit. And it changes how you lead. It changes how you behave. Now, medical science has also shown that folks who feed their minds or review regularly stories like that, positive chemicals in the body that release energy get released. So chemicals like adrenaline, chemicals like serotonin, chemicals like endorphins. Some of you know that I'm a distance runner. And so before a long training run, I have every one of those stories I mentioned to you, I have them all tracked out. I have it tracked out to that 10 or 15 minutes of that movie, or that presentation, where it's the crescendo moment, whether it's the moment of triumph. And again, I view those, and I absorb them, and I plant myself in them, because they do make a difference. In my training run, they make a difference in other areas of my life. So feed your mind with stories of the extraordinary. Element number 2. I call this surround yourselves with encouragers. Surround yourself with encouragers. Surround yourself. Do you have people around you that are positive? People around you that speak words of encouragement. People that speak words that build up. People that speak words of life. Are you one of those that speak words that build people up, that speak words of life? I want to share with you a very powerful story that relates to my mother. My mother passed away about a week and a half before Christmas. Actually, it was a very different season of life that both my wife and I went through, as we lost 2 parents in the span of 3 months. My father-in-law passed away in October from bone cancer, and my mother in December, just ahead of Christmas. And long story short, she had developed an infection in her artificial hip, and powerful antibiotics could not control that infection. The infection spread through her heart, actually caused a buildup of bacteria on one of her heart valves. Pieces of that bacteria broke off and caused 2 strokes. On top of all that, she had been battling emphysema, so her lungs and her body had been weakened by that. So for the doctors, it was a tough decision process, because she needed surgery on her hip, she needed surgery on her heart. She was too weak and too frail for either. So she was committed to a rehab center to try to get her weight back up, try to get her strength back up so that she could possibly endure those surgeries. Well, I had planned a visit to come out and be with Mom just ahead of Christmas, and just ahead of my visit, she had developed pneumonia. So it was a combination of these factors that mother's life to go downhill very rapidly. As God's timing would have it, I was out there for that final weekend, and I remember that Saturday morning, we got a call from the hospital. The doctor said, we're having a tough time controlling her vital signs. We believe the situation is grave. My dad and I raced over to the hospital. Sometime prior to this, my mom had actually signed a document called a living will. Basically, it stated that legally that her wishes are, if her life is being kept alive by extraordinary means, not to continue with those extraordinary means. So I talked to the doctors at the ICU. I ended up calling my brother in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, and I told my sister-in-law, and I said, you need to come over here. The doctors are basically keeping mom alive until you get here to see your final lives. So my brother and his son came over. My sister-in-law and her family came over. Some other folks came over. There were folks surrounding my mom. There was family that had not gotten together in a long time that were right there with my mom. And she was aware of it, and I know it blessed her. The next couple hours, we had a chance to share words of affirmation with my mom, words of appreciation, words of encouragement, words of gratitude for her life. Some of us had a chance to share periods of our lives, specific periods, specific instances where mom made a difference, where mom made an impact. And so, my mom received a massive infusion of powerful words of love and encouragement. At 5 o'clock, my dad had to make the agonizing decision to honor my mom's wishes to have all the life support equipment removed. Doctors told us that they would remove the respirator, remove the IVs, and simply give some pain medication to keep my mom comfortable for the remaining minutes of her life. An interesting thing happened when they pulled all the life support equipment. My mom's blood pressure came up to a more stable range and remained stable. Her heart rate came down to almost more normal range. Her breathing was much more relaxed and in rhythm. I was looking at one of the monitors that showed her oxygenation rate for lungs. It went from a 78 back up to a 95. Mom was resting. I stayed with mom, watching her, monitoring her, and I remember seeing the next morning, Sunday morning, seeing the head nurse come in and seeing the puzzlement on her face when she saw my mom was still alive. My mom ended up lasting another 19 hours after the life support equipment was removed. At 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon, she finally passed in the arms of Jesus. Now, I believe in modern medicine, I believe in doctors, and I believe in applying the best medical procedures we know how to help people out. But in this particular instance, all those powerful words of love and encouragement and affirmation given to my mom were creating a final second wind in her life. All those powerful words that were shared with her were accomplishing what the blood pressure medicines could not. In Proverbs 18:21, it says, the power of life and death is in the tongue. Never, ever, ever underestimate the power of your words of encouragement to somebody else, and never, ever, ever underestimate the power of encouraging words shared with you. They do make a difference in creating a second wind. Element number 3. I kind of went round and round on what to call this. I call this connect with a partner, connect with a team. Connect with a partner, connect with a team. Don't go at it alone. New life, new energy, new spirit can be created when you are connected with somebody else going the same direction you are. New life, new energy, new spirit can happen when you're with a part of a team that's going the same direction you are. It just might be part of the fatigue that you might be feeling right now, and the lack of energy you might be feeling because maybe you're trying to do it by yourself. Maybe you're trying to be a soloist. Don't be a Lone Ranger leader. Connect up with somebody else who's trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. We were not designed to go at it alone. And I am so glad you are here at this conference for these days, this weekend. Because this is an excellent opportunity to connect with others who are going the same direction you are. To connect with others who have the same heart you have. To connect with others who who are experiencing some of the same things you're experiencing. This morning as I was talking with some of you, some of you already had mentioned, yeah, I've got a list of names of some people I know I can call that they're trying to do some of the same things I'm doing here, and they're going through some of the same thing. Yeah, there's energy. There's new energy and spirit that can be created in that dynamic. At my church here in East Orlando, Discovery Church East Campus, about 2.5 years ago, I started a running/walking group. So the very first Saturday of every month, we get together and we have a fellowship time, and then we will go out and do a 3-mile or a 5K distance together, which is technically 3.1 miles. We'll do that together. My goal every time we get together for our monthly run or walk is that no one does the 5K by themselves. That everybody has a partner to go with. So sometimes that means I will run with someone at their pace, the 5K distance. Sometimes I will walk the entire 5K distance with somebody, and that's just fine with me because, again, I want everybody to have somebody to connect up with. Well, back in February, we had a new gentleman join up with us. His name is Angel Velasquez. Now, I've known Angel for a number of years. He attends our church, and just a year prior, Angel was battling major back issues and actually was walking with a cane. And as a lead usher, and when he would come to into our church, we'd have to find him a special chair, a special area for him to sit in because he couldn't sit or stand for very long. I know he was battling some other health issues, serious health issues at the time. So when he came to us last February, he had lost 60 pounds. He was making a concentrated effort to get back in better health through rigorous exercise, which again is another key to creating a second win. I'll talk to you in just a few moments there. So we had our fellowship and our devotional time, and then we set off for our 5K run together, our 5K walk together. So as usual, I will hang back and see who's partnered with who. Angel was the last to leave, so I hooked up with Angel. And he goes, Pete, you don't need to hang with me. You can go ahead and run with the others. I said, no, I want everybody to have a partner, and I want to hang with you here. So Angel shared with me that he had been doing a little bit of jogging. And so I shared with him a technique called the Jeff Galloway method of walking and running. It's where you run or jog for 4 minutes, and then you walk for a minute. And so a lot of distance runners, marathoners, ultramarathoners have used this to accomplish the distance. And so he agreed to try that. So yeah, I'll keep the time, and let's give this a try. So as we were doing our jog for 4 minutes, walk for a minute, we were having a great time, a man-to-man fellowship. We were talking about our families and what's going on in our spiritual lives. And he has a Puerto Rican heritage like I do, so we had that as a connection. He's also been in food service. He used to be an executive chef, so we had that as a connection also. So after the first mile, Angel, how you doing? I'm doing great, he says with enthusiasm. So we continued on to the second mile. After the second mile, Angel, how you doing? I'm doing great. So we continue on to the third mile. Before you know it, we finish the 5K distance, and Angel was so excited. I can't believe I just did a 5K. I've never done a 5K before. You know, I couldn't have done this by myself. He said there's something about running together. He said it didn't feel like I was exerting much energy. And one of the other runners in my group, he said it this way. He says, that's just God's math. When we're partnering with other people doing things, of how that happens, that we do things that we didn't think possible, but when we do it together as a team, we can get it done. So again, new life and new energy. The second wind can be created when you are connected with a partner or connected with a team. Element number 4. This one can be a little bit of a sensitive subject, but it's a very powerful element, and that's called forgiveness. Walking or operating in a spirit of forgiveness. Now, I debated on whether, let me back up here. This is powerful because if you're holding on to any kind of unforgiveness, you have a hard time forgiving somebody else, have a hard time forgiving yourself, or forgiving a situation, or letting it go, it literally steals your energy in multiple ways. And so I debated whether to share this next story with you, but it is so recent and so real and so clearly illustrates the power of forgiveness. and the reason I was debating is because it relates to running. Didn't want to share two back-to-back stories related to running. But again, we're going to have a little fun with this here. Back in February, also February 23rd to be exact here, I was training for a 100-kilometer ultramarathon, and that's a 62-mile race. And so I've been training 5 months, a number of months to get to this point. Today was going to be my longest training run for that ultramarathon. It was going to be a run of 43 miles. So, because of the length of that training run, I wanted to capture as much of the cool air here in Orlando as I could. So I started the run at 2:30 in the morning. Now, because I started so early in the morning, it means I'm going to be running a number of hours in darkness. So, for safety concerns, I wanted to see where I was going and make sure that other drivers saw me. So I have this reflective vest. I won't put it on because I don't want to mess up my wireless mic here. So I have this reflective vest on. I've got my flashing light in front, flashing light in the back side there. I've also got these going, okay? And I also have my headlamp, okay? I won't keep this on, so I'm probably going to blind you there, okay? All right, so I'm wearing this equipment. I'll keep this on just for the story here. So I have my 43-mile run all mapped out, and so I'm approaching about the 3-mile mark in the run, and that route takes me into a neighborhood in our subdivision. It's the only neighborhood in our subdivision that's a gated neighborhood. And I've run in this neighborhood many, many years. I just run through the little archway right by the guard station. Walkers, runners, bikers go through there. Well, this particular run, I'm coming up onto that area by the guard station, and the security guard comes out and says, Sir, I need you to stop. I'm like, what's going on? Do you live here? I said, well, I live in the subdivision. I don't live specifically in this neighborhood. Do you have some ID? Well, I didn't have any ID. I had a little runner's belt that has my name and some emergency contact information, but it's not an official ID. So she takes me over to the guard station, and she finds me in the computer. I point to the screen. That's me. I'm Peter J. Folch Jr., yes. And because I have many times via my car visited friends in there, so I'm in their system. Well, do you have an ID? No, I don't have an ID. Well, then I can't let you run in the neighborhood. I'm like, oh my. I said, you know, I have been running in this neighborhood for 14 years, and no one's ever stopped me. And she says, well, the other security guards haven't been doing their job. So then I try to rationalize. I says, ma'am, the way I'm dressed, does it look like I'm going to cause problems in this neighborhood? Would I be dressed like this? She says, it does look like you're on some sort of a job. Yes. But I can't let you in the neighborhood. So I just quietly turn around and I start running the other direction. I am fuming, man. I am so upset. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm thinking about, okay, how do I make up the mileage that I've lost not being able to run in the neighborhood? And I'm recounting the event. And about 3/4 of a mile down the road as I'm running, I finally kind of calmed down a little bit. I was kind of talking to myself. I said, you know, she's just doing the job that she was trained to do. And whether I agree with it or not, I had to forgive her. I had to forgive whoever made up that rule, forgive the situation, and just let it go. And when I did that, it was like I got back into rhythm. I felt a little lighter. I felt like my feet weren't as heavy on the ground. But wait, the story gets better. At mile 20, by design, I stop at a 7-Eleven. And so, because I want to pick up some water and Powerade, okay, to keep my fluids up. So, I stop at the 7-Eleven, I pick up my water and Powerade, and I'm drinking it as I'm continuing along. Well, the section of road that I'm on doesn't have many places to dispose of these bottles. So, but there is another subdivision with a security guard and a gate there that I have in the past been able to drop off my bottles for them to put in their garbage. So, this morning, as I finish this off, I'm coming up on the guard station, and the guard just had I'm doing great. Say, I've got a couple of empty bottles here. Could you take these and put them in your trash? Oh, no problem. Yeah, I can do that. No problem. So I hand the guard the bottles, and and I go back to the main road to continue up on my run. All of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute. What? Do you live here? No, I don't live here. No. Well, then I can't take these from you. And he hands me back the bottles. And I said, "Oh, sir, I've gone by this guard station before and I've dropped off these bottles and no problem." "Well, they shouldn't have taken your bottles." Okay? I said, "Sir, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm not trying to be a litter bug. I don't want to throw these into the ditch or the grassy area. I want to be able to." "No, I can't do that for you." So I have these bottles in my hand, and that's, I don't like running with these bottles in my hand. It's uncomfortable. I know that there's another mile and a quarter. There's a Walgreens where there's going to be a trash container there. But just like, again, I am upset again. And I'm like, what's going on? Is this runner harassment morning or what? And again, about another quarter mile down the road, again, I had to make the conscious choice to forgive him, forgive the situation, to let it go. And when I did that, it literally felt like I didn't even have these bottles in my hand. Even though they were there, I eventually made it to Walgreens, disposed of them, and continued down the run. Now, I know that there are some of you out there dealing with much more troubling issues than I went through that morning. And by the way, since that time, I've never had anything like that happen before again. So, just a unique morning. But again, my point is, and if you need help getting through something, then get that help. Because again, holding on to something that happened 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that might be, again, it's stealing life and energy away from you. Again, medical science has shown that people that harbor bitterness and unforgiveness, their immune systems are weakened. They have a tougher time fighting off cold, flu, and disease and illness. And so, again, new life and energy can be created physically as well as mentally, emotionally, spiritually when you operate in a spirit of forgiveness. Element number 5. This one I call stand firm in God's call. Stand firm in God's call. Have any of you ever experienced a time where things aren't making sense? Lord, I don't get it right now. I've sought you with a pure heart, I've prayed, I have fasted, I believe. I'm doing just what you want me to do. I am operating in your call. And yet things aren't turning out like I thought they would. Things are kind of confusing right now. Anybody ever been there? Okay. Well, let me read you a section of Genesis 22. A story maybe many of you might be familiar with, Abraham and Isaac. Now, leading up to chapter 22 of Genesis, Abraham and Sarah had to wait a very long time to have their one and only son, Isaac. In fact, some new life and new energy had to be created in Sarah to be able to carry Isaac to full term at the age that she gave birth to Isaac. So here's the son that they had been waiting a long time for. Now, here in Genesis 22, starting in verse 1, it says, "Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said, 'Abraham, here I am,' he replied. God said, 'Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac. Go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you.' Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him two of his servants and his son Isaac. When they had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set up the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up, and he saw the place at a distance. He said to his servant, 'Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you.' Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife, and the two of them went on together." Jumping down to verse 9. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar. And by the way, scholars say that Isaac was probably late teens. So he's a big guy. He's probably the size of his dad. And then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. And then jumping down to verse 15, the angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven the second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, because you have done this, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations of the earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. Is it possible for some of you right now that you might be going through a time of testing? Could God be setting you up to experience unimaginable blessing? Could God be setting you up in the future to experience an extraordinary harvest of fruit? My career with Darden Restaurants has taken me from Minnesota, where I grew up, down to Orlando, and then from Orlando up to Chicago, where I was a division training manager up there for a while, and then back to Orlando. And I remember our move back from Chicago back to Orlando. My wife and I went through 3 house hunting trips and came up empty. 3 Friday, Saturday, Sunday, full days of looking at houses, and couldn't find the right house. Now, my wife and I, over 24 years ago, we've been married 24 years, as we were talking about our lives together and getting prepared to be married, we both agreed that we wanted our house to be used for ministry. We believed that God put doors on our houses, not just for security, but to welcome people in. And so we would be, before our house hunting trips, we'd be praying and fasting and asking God to lead us to that right house. And so we'd be doing these house hunting trips, and we think we might find the house, and then something would fall through, or something would snag on the deal. Actually, there was when we went back to Chicago after the 3rd house hunting trip, there was one house that I wasn't totally peaceful on, and I thought it was maybe a little overpriced. The owner wasn't budging on price, wasn't negotiating at all on this. But we were actually leaning towards signing the purchase agreement. This was like a Wednesday. And I was up in Detroit doing some restaurant training audits up there. And my wife calls the day that we're going to sign that purchase agreement. She says, the realtor just called and says, there's a new house that just came on the market today. And she feels you ought to take a look at it. You know, of course, by this time I had looked at so many of these real estate stat sheets. I said, well, since fax it up. So they faxed it to the restaurant, and so I'm looking at a black and white photo of the front part of the house, and then looking through all the details on the house. And there was something was happening as I was going through this. So what ended up happening is my father-in-law, who lived in Orlando at the time, and my sister-in-law, who also lived in Orlando at the time, went through the house with the realtor that evening. I flew back to Chicago. Later on that night, we got a call from them. They said, we think we found your house. Long story short, we ended up, if the house went on the market that morning, we bought the house that night, sight unseen. Had not gone through it ourselves. At the price it was listed. 2 weeks later, I fly down for the home inspection to literally see what I bought. And I am coming up the driveway, and I see the owner, and it's the music pastor of a church we used to attend the first time we were in Orlando. And I didn't recognize his name because his name was the more formal name on the real estate stat sheet there. He had the house built and built for gatherings. He's had the church choir over there many, many times. When he had the house built also, in the foundation, right underneath the door threshold of the front door, he had a family Bible buried there and also a hymnal. So every time that you come through the front door into our house, you're stepping across the Word of God and the music that lifts up His name. And the house is wired for music. Both my son and daughter now are in music careers, to the glory of God. I calculated just the other day that in the 15 years that we've lived in this house, that we have had close to maybe 300 meetings of different varieties in that house, between connection groups, Bible studies, other church meetings, the youth group, youth movie nights, student venture movie nights, fellowship of Christian athletes, leadership meetings, having the varsity sports teams over, having the drama groups over, having the music groups over from the school, having birthday parties, proms, graduation. We even held a birthday party for a young gal down the street whose situation is not so positive there. We held a birthday party at our house. Again, we have seen folks come to Christ in our house. We've seen different life change happen. I don't share that with you at all to bring glory to myself or bring glory to my wife Lisa. I share that with you as a testimony to God's faithfulness when we hang in there, in spite of things not making sense. It can create new life, new energy, and set you up for some extraordinary blessing to happen in your ministry. Element number 6. I can't talk about second wind and creating new life and energy without talking about physical exercise. Okay? It's important that all of us be in a regular routine of physical exercise. Now, some of you are already into a routine, and that's wonderful. Those of you who do not have a regular routine, I'm going to encourage you to find something, what I call aerobic. Something, go out and do something 20 minutes. For 20 minutes, that's aerobic. Whether it be running, whether it be walking, whether it be biking, rollerblading, Pilates, aerobics class. Now, in my days when I worked in restaurant operations, there were some days I would work 12, 14 hours, especially if I worked a mid-shift. And so sometimes I'd come home and I would be, physically and mentally tired. Now, let me preface this by saying, there is an appropriate time for rest. Absolutely. An appropriate time. And rest can also create restoration and renewal of energy. A lot of times when I would come home from the restaurant, I'd be feeling that physical tiredness, that mental tiredness. I'd go out and do some exercise, and I'd come back after a walk or after a run or some exercise, and I'd be feeling energized. I'd be feeling good. And now I know I've had some managers tell me, says, well, Pete, I run a food service operation. I'm on my feet a lot. I'm moving around. I probably put in a couple miles just by running the service operation, no doubt about that. But I'm also going to encourage you outside of that to be intentional about getting and being a regular routine of getting that physical exercise. And whether you're doing it by yourself, or you're partnered with a friend, or partnered with a team, just down the street from us, we have some wonderful neighbors. Their names are Val and Ann. They are 90 years old. They have been married 67 years. And they go up ballroom dancing 3 nights a week. And they have been inviting us to go with them. And so a couple months ago, we went with them on a Tuesday night. I came home from a long day of work, and I got my suit and got my tie and went with them to the Senior Recreation Center, and we had a blast. I mean, here we are, my wife, we're in our 50s. We were with couples in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and we actually met one gal that was 100 years old out there on the floor. So again, find what works for you in terms of physical exercise. And as with any physical exercise routine, make sure you keep your fluids up, you stay hydrated, keep your nutrients up. It makes a big, big difference in helping to create that new energy, that second wind. Element number 7, second to the last element. This one I call keep the focus on the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. Keep the focus on the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. My career in food service has taken all kinds of twists and turns. Some planned and some unplanned. My life, my journey with my family, our lives together, our journey has taken all kinds of twists and turns. Some planned and some unplanned. So how do we approach it when we're going through a challenging time? When we're going through, or a friend of ours is going through a very unpleasant situation? Well, the bigger picture, the bigger perspective is found in Romans 8:28 and 29. I'll read verse 28, Romans 8:28. It says, "And we know that God causes all things to work together for good, to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." Now, that is an often quoted scripture, and it's a great scripture. But sometimes you hear, wait a minute, how can God cause any good to come out of this situation? Out of this negative situation that I've happened to be encountering? Come on, Pete, let's get real. How can God cause anything good to come out of this disaster? Out of this calamity? Out of this horrific situation? Well, I journeyed with my brother Charles for 8.5 years as he battled ocular melanoma. He was just 14 months younger than me, and just a little less than 2 years ago this summer, he passed away from that cancer. And again, I hear the questions, how can anything good come out of battling cancer? All the surgeries, all the pain, all the treatments, all the experimental drugs, and all their side effects. How can anything good come out of all that? My brother is the closest example I know of in 2 Timothy 4:7, which was one of his favorite scriptures. I had the blessing of being with my brother right up to his final days of his life. You know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Verse 29. For those He foreknew, He also predestined to become conformed to the image of His Son. If what I am going through, as tough as it is intended for me to become more like Jesus, is that not a good thing? We as leaders, Christian leaders, are constantly being molded and shaped to become more conformed to the image of Jesus Christ. So if what I am going through causes me to be more like Christ, that's a good thing. And so my brother, going through what he did with cancer, the battles he had there, he became more like Jesus and left a very powerful legacy. I remember the memorial service back in Arizona, where that church that they attended, it was one of the largest services they ever had. There were doctors around Phoenix, clinics, where my brother received his treatment. The doctors closed down their clinics. They shut it down so that their entire team could come to the memorial service for Charles. Folks from around the country came in for that memorial service for my brother Charles. But again, that is the kind of impact and new energy that came out of his life with that. Just very recently, my sister-in-law had to go in for an MRI. And somehow, some way, they got into a conversation. The technician was referencing a cancer patient that he treated a couple of years ago. And he said, yeah, I remember this fellow. He said he had to have his right eye removed. My brother had to have his right eye removed with the ocular melanoma. He also had to have his liver and his pancreas and other organs also removed from his body. He also had to have a shoulder blade, a scapula, removed. He was describing my brother to a T. And he's telling my sister-in-law, I remember this man, and I remember him being the nicest, bravest man I'd ever met. And my sister-in-law, right there on the lab table, just tears coming down her face, saying, you just described my husband. So, focus on the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. It makes a powerful difference. And what my brother went through created a second wind in my life to come out of, I was kind of semi-retired from distance running, but his life inspired me to kind of come out of that retirement. And actually a year and a half ago, I ended up running a 50-mile ultra-marathon in Tampa, and just 3.5 months ago ran a 100-kilometer race in Fort Lauderdale. Both runs intended to honor my brother's life, to honor his battle with cancer, and to raise money for the Ocular Melanoma Foundation. And between the two races, we raised almost $10,000 for the Ocular Melanoma Foundation. So keep the focus on the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. It can make a powerful difference in creating a second wind. The last element, element number 8. Okay, in review. I'll review the first 7 again for you. Okay, element number 1, feed your mind with stories of the extraordinary. Okay, number 2, surround yourself with encouragers. Number 3, connect with a partner, connect with a team. Don't go at it alone. Number 4, operate in the spirit of forgiveness. Okay, number 5, stand firm in God's call. Number 6, get into a regular routine of physical exercise. And number 7, keep the focus on the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. Element number 8. Okay, God is in the business of restoration and renewal. So declare it. That is the 8th element. This is a practical one. Another, declare it. Don't let failures, setbacks, things that take the wind out of your sails, don't let that permanently take energy away from you. Okay? Anybody who's ever achieved anything great has had to go through challenging times. And so God is in the business of restoration and renewal. He is the ultimate source of new life and new energy. So speak it out. Declare it. What does it say in Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3? It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. Verse 3. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Let me ask you this. With this conference, how many of you are feeling right now that God could be putting a new song in you? A new song in your heart? Yes. Declare it. Speak it out loud. Speak it out loud. And whether it's speaking it or singing it like we did in worship, like we did this morning, new life and new energy comes with that. And so when you go back to your church or go back home to your ministry, hey, declare, God put a new song in my mouth. A hymn of praise to our God. And you know what? As a result of my ministry, which is actually his ministry, okay, many will see and fear God and put their trust in him. Or if somebody's already taken that step, many will go further and go deeper in their walk with God. So speak it out loud. Declare it. As I close off this message, I mentioned to you earlier that about 3.5 months ago, back in March 23rd, I ran the Paul 100-kilometer ultramarathon. Not yet, sorry. Again, that's 62 miles. It was the most extreme, extraordinary race that I've ever run. It was run on the hottest day they have ever experienced for that race in Fort Lauderdale. It was 87 degrees that day. The humidity at 6 a.m. when we started was 97%. It took me almost 19 hours to finish the race, which again was just the goal, to finish. Okay, now, there were many storylines that came out of that race. Many storylines of where God showed up in big, powerful, and unique ways. And we don't have time to get into all of those stories. I'll have to share that another time. But what I will share with you is my personal declaration that I used to get ready for that race. I used it for the 50-miler. I used it for other marathons. I still use this today after my quiet time, or before I start my stretches and go out and get out with my run on the road. This is my personal declaration. This is another part of Scripture that another powerful reminder of who God is and His strength and His power. So again, this has meant so much to me. It's Isaiah 40, verses 9 through 13 and 21 through 31. Be blessed by this. Here is your God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and his arm rules for him. And see, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. He tends to his flock like a shepherd, and gathers the lambs in his arms, and carries them close to his heart. And he gently leads those who have young. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in the balance? Who has understood the mind of the Lord, or instructed him as his counselor? Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood? Since the earth was founded, he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and his people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy, and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught, and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground, and then he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me, or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out their starry host one by one, and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and complain, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. My cause is disregarded by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired and weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary, and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. That is our awesome and mighty God, who loves you and has the power to give you a second wind. Thank you.